YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back after a wild NFL week one. We're on to week two. I got my updated power rankings that we do every Tuesday afternoon. A lot of movement in these, especially in the first couple weeks. Wins and losses definitely play a part here. They're not end of the year predictions. They're not who I think the best teams and the worst teams will be. It goes by week. Most of the time you win, you go up, you lose, you go down. You got to look good on the field. And sometimes some weird things happen. We'll break it all down. Really enjoy making this video. Follow our Twitter. Constant thoughts and updates during games. Fan voted picks on there going on right now for week two. And then a picks league as well, keeping you guys involved. So check that out. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Like I said, power rankings every Tuesday afternoon. Late night Tuesday, weekly pick'ems. And then Wednesday, score prediction and all those other videos we have too. So join us for that. Make sure you download that BetQL app. You can download it through Google Play, the App Store, of course. There's also a website. They basically tell you who you should be betting on. You know, it's very cool. I used it last week after signing up, and it's fantastic. They have, models what the record will be in that model from the based on the past. So basically the percentage of winning that bet. So it pretty much tells you exactly, whether it's against the spread, over, under, first half, second half. I placed a first half bet last week on the Chargers. It was a lock according to them. It ended up being a lock, ended up being right. So it's very cool. You can customize the dashboard on there. They literally have everything. They tell you who the professionals are betting on, who they think you should bet on. Literally anything you can think of, and it's pretty damn accurate as well. So make sure you check it out. There's links in the description. There's links all over your screen. They have a special offer for BetMGM. So that's definitely helpful there as well. Again, links in the description. Use code GOAT for 25% off. Do not forget that. But check it out. Very cool website and app. Here's our Twitter. Yeah, votes for week two going on. You guys got to say in our weekly picks every game right here. So go to our Twitter. You see it at Goes NFL. Make sure you follow it. And then we also have our Picks League. That's how you join our Picks League, giving away some prizes as well. So check that out. We're going to the power rankings. At the bottom's the Jacksonville Jaguars, down 2. We kind of can show this next team as well. The Lions actually moved up a spot. Like I said, my system that I create for power rankings, usually if you win, you go up. You lose, you go down. Sometimes you can go up when losing based on how you looked on the field, which how you look on the field is most important. But most of the time, it's how another team looks. The Jaguars, just week one. It's just week one. This isn't how I think they'll be at the end of the year, but it's a weekly updated power rankings. So it's based on how you did in week one for the most part and how I think you are as a team, overall. The Jaguars belong at the bottom. I expect this to be a high-powered offensive team and definitely still can be, for sure. Still, we'll see. Time will tell, and that'll help them move up if that's the case. Did worry about their defense. And that ended up being the case there. Defense pretty bad, but the offense was surprisingly pretty bad against a Houston Texans team. Keep that in mind. They got beat up pretty bad against a Houston Texans team there. I know they could be a little better than we all expected, but we'll see. So the Lions kind of move up. If the Lions would have just, if that game finished, 41-10 at one point, around that range. If that finished like that, it would have been pretty tough to put the Jaguars below them. But how they came out and moved the ball, even when they were losing big, they were still moving the ball better than expected against the 49ers defense. And they came back, fought back. I actually saw improvement throughout the game. I still really worry about the defense, but at least they had some offense going. So that kind of assisted in helping them move up a spot, but they did lose the game. So it's really tough to move teams that lose up a spot. But Jaguars played that major assist in the Lions moving up one spot. So that's what I got after week one there. 30 is going to be the Jets. They moved on 2 spots. I like that they came back and actually made the game a little interesting against the Panthers. But, if you didn't watch the game, that'll kind of be the storyline for you. But if you watch the game, they actually got beat up, more than the score will show. I thought the Panthers kind of shot themselves in the foot, and that resulted in it being a little closer than expected. If the Jets created that, then I would say, okay, yeah, I would think that would be better on the Jets, I guess, for their stock. But I did like the way that they tried to come back there, but it's a tough one. The Panthers were sloppy. The Jets still lost the game. The offensive line was disappointing, but Mekhi Becton did get hurt. Don't really have much on Wilson. It's a first rookie game there. Had some highs, some lows. Defensively, they got a good amount of pressure against a weaker Panthers offensive line. But they're going to be down 2 spots there. It wasn't the best game. I expected more out of the offense. It did kind of come alive late. We'll see how it is moving forward. 29 is the Giants, down 2 spots. Expected the offense to struggle against the Broncos team. It did. I did not expect the defense to struggle. The score really won't show that it was more of a beatdown than that the score showed, even though the score kind of showed that a little bit because we expected it to be tight. So hopefully the defense is all right. I think that maybe just could be a week 1 thing. The defense was not so good against I guess we don't know a lot about the Broncos offense. We don't expect it to be great though, so that's a little bit of a worry, but it might be just that week 1 thing. I'm not going to overreact and say the defense is in big time trouble, but it's a week by week power rankings. They didn't look too good overall as a team in that game. They really weren't in that game when they should be in that game. So they're going to move down 2 spots to number 29. 28 is going to be the Falcons. A rough go against the Eagles. They're going to go down 5 spots, a whopping 5 spots here towards the bottom tier of teams here. That was a rough go. The script kind of worked offensively early in that game. When I say kind of, they moved the ball, but they didn't get in the end zone for 7, but they got some field goals. And then after the script, it just fell apart. They didn't make adjustments. The Eagles did. The Eagles just completely outworked them on both sides of the ball. Again, it could be a week 1 thing. Sometimes week 1 doesn't tell us how teams will be the rest of the year. A lot of time that's the case. Probably 0 teams will look like what they did in week 1 for majority of the year. That's kind of the good news for some of these teams. But at the end of the day, a pretty poor outing, very poor outing. And heading into week 2, they're down to number 28. Next, 27, the Texans, very impressive. They did play the Jags, a team they can win against last year as well. And they move up 4 spots. Impressive. Impressive. I want them to show us more, though, to keep on moving up. But moving up 4 is a pretty good amount. But Tyrod Taylor was excellent against pressure, throwing downfield. Receiver stepped up. Running back stepped up. Mark Ingram had a good day. See the depth on defense coming into play, really all over the team, the roster. So that's a good dominant win. Go out and prove some more, though. Prove us all wrong even further, and you'll continue to move up. There for the Texans. Bengals at 26. They start the year off with a win, move up 3 spots here to 26. And there are some bright spots I talked about in the recap. I love the interior defense, how they looked. I liked that they got Mixon going. I liked that Burrow, there was worries that he'd be in his own head. I didn't see that. Jamar Chase was excellent. So there's some bright things for the future. I do think, could that be one of those weird week 1 games where the Vikings were penalized an insane amount of times, kind of shot themselves in the foot. So the Bengals win. They move up 3 spots, continue to prove that they're not. We know they're a great future team, continue to win and prove that they are a team right now, and they'll continue to go up. So they go up 3 spots. Bears will just move down 1 spot, lost to a tough team in the Rams. I'm not thrilled with the Bears defense. Maybe it was a week 1 thing, very sloppy. The whole thing looked bad. Akeem Hicks had a sack. That looked pretty good. The whole entire defense, I see people blaming like one player. Eddie Jackson taking a lot of heat. He didn't play well. The entire defense did not play well. So that was weird, and it was against the Rams offense. Offensively, I know the Bears only scored 14 points, but I thought they moved the ball pretty well. They kind of got that early season quick, fast fire offense that kind of brings some problems to teams. So we'll see if that ends up being a thing, both sides of the ball moving forward, or if it was just a week 1 thing. Only move them down 1 spot. I love when this happens, kind of a coincidence that 25 and 26 here right next to each other. They play each other this week. Bears coming off a loss, Bengals coming off a win. I like that. That's a matchup there, so can't wait to see that. Next, the Vikings moving down 6 spots. They lost their first week. It did feel like one of those sloppy week 1s. They kind of shot themselves in the foot. We know they're a better team than that. That's kind of how my power rankings work. We know they're a better team, but I still move them down 6 spots to 24. They look sloppy. They didn't look good. They lost the game, so I still got to move them down here. We'll see if they can figure it out. They got a tough schedule coming up here, starting this week against the Cardinals, who put on a pretty good show in week 1. So the Vikings disappointing, down 6 spots. Maybe not playing starters in preseason. That was the thing for the Falcons too. Maybe like kind of getting out of that rust, because they didn't play their guys in preseason. We'll see, but that counts for something. You can't play sloppy any weeks. 23, Panthers moving up 2 spots. They went out and won a game. They went out and won the game against the Jets. The good news, talk about this in the recap, good news is they dominated that game. The bad news is they kind of kept it close and they didn't execute in the right moments. So that they got to kind of finish games out and execute those moments. Missed a couple touchdown opportunities. But overall, it's a good day, and that's why they move up 2 spots. Just, what happens when they play better teams? Can they execute? Can they finish? And then if they can continue to do that and win, they will soar up just like any team here. Next, the Colts. Colts down 5 spots is a good example of, the Colts really aren't the reason themselves why they moved down 5 spots. They did lose. The game was really never that close. Maybe the scoreboard did show sometimes. So that definitely plays a part. But the main reason how my power ranking shaked out, why they moved down 5 spots, is there was just 5 teams that looked real good and won that were below them that I just had to move ahead of them. So it was more of that, the other teams. Sometimes people focus on their one team and why did they move down that many spots. Sometimes you got to look at the big picture, around it. It's a big puzzle. So really it was just 5 teams, and they did lose and they didn't look so hot, but mainly 5 teams. Just I could not, they had to move ahead of them after this week. So that was more of that. And the same thing goes for this team as well, Washington football team. They played a tough Chargers team. They played them tough. Washington was a little sloppy. I think the defense actually could play a little better, and I think they will. But offensively, Gibson fumble. They play a tough Chargers team. They played them pretty tough. I know the Chargers made some mistakes as well, but they played them pretty tough, and they lost their starting quarterback. So it kind of hurts to move Washington down 6 spots. It's just there was 6 teams below them from where they were at that I felt had to move ahead of them based on the week 1 as a whole. So the Washington and Colts are kind of in the same area. I think when it's all said and done at the end of the year, they'll be better than 21-22, but this is how my power rankings works. It's almost I create the system and the teams create the actual rankings. That's how I always like to put it there. So they're kind of in the same boat there. So we'll see Thursday Night Football, Washington without Fitzmagic there. We'll see how he does. Heineke, we know he can step up. We'll see what he can do. 20s, the Broncos move up 2 spots. Yeah, I was impressed with the Broncos. I was impressed. You would think moving up, they could move up more than 2 spots based on how impressed I was. It's just tough to move them ahead of some other teams that I have ahead of them. And they did play the Giants. I expected the defense to do that, but the offense was more impressive than expected. They're in a position to start 2-0. Let's see if they do that. But yeah, defense did their thing. Could have got a little more pressure maybe, nitpicking here, but offensively, very, very much impressed. So let's see if they continue to do that and continue to rise. So watch out for those Broncos. 19, the Eagles. I had to move the Eagles up a good amount. 7. I actually wanted to move them up ahead of that, but I had to slow my roll a little bit because it's just week 1. They didn't, it matters though, because it's a week by week power rankings. It's not the end of the year predictions. They were outstanding, so they move up 7 spots. So it's at the most movement so far. It is the most movement so far. Both sides of the ball. Jalen Hurts was excellent. Miles Sanders, who's kind of been inconsistent in the past, looked excellent. Receivers looked good. Offensive line looked good. We talked about the defense all over the place. But something that stands out, Jalen Hurts probably the biggest thing. But the coaching staff, adjustments throughout the game to improve, to kind of extend that lead, because the Falcons are kind of hanging around a little bit. Play calling was great. So just every phase, Eagles look great, and they dominated the game. Big game against 49ers this week. I can't wait for that one. Eagles, it's the direction you want to head in these power rankings, that's for sure. 18, the Ravens. I moved the Ravens down a whopping 10 spots, here. And you could, they played it close. They could have won that game. Maybe you could say they should have won that game. But I didn't really like what I saw. They started off a little strong, but the second half of the game, they got completely outplayed. Raiders were a little sloppy as well, not executing. The Raiders should have scored more points in that game as well. And there's some things from week 1s where teams are, they look a little rusty because they didn't play in preseason, or they weren't really prepared. They didn't really have a game plan. Tends to happen in week 1. Those things matter in a video like this, but those don't really stick to me as major concerns going down the distance. The Ravens have concerns that are I'm a little worried about. Still a good team, and when it's all said and done, I expect them to be better than 18, at least we hope. But they're the offensive line just whiffing on blocks, struggling with speed or power rush for both. Lamar Jackson not playing well. I'm not worried about Lamar Jackson, though, but he did not play well. He hurt his team. I'm not worried about Lamar Jackson. And then defensively, this started with the injuries. Marcus Peters, we knew, I talked about it. how much they will miss Marcus Peters. They can't even run their own defense. The blitzes just don't work anymore. It went from Martindale looking like a genius blitzer to looking like a stupid blitzer, but he didn't do anything different. It's just who's out there, and it just can't run their normal defense right now. So it's only week 1. They definitely can adjust and fix it, but things don't look good. Even though this game went to overtime, was close, it did not look good for the Ravens. They got completely dominated in the second half of that game. And they almost got lucky. They kind of caught some breaks in this game, too. They really caught some breaks, and they still couldn't pull it off here. So not ideal for the Ravens. Again, roster, talent, they're better than 18 at the end of the day, but these aren't end of the day predictions. So Ravens got to be better. Some things I worry about there. Speaking of the Raiders, they move up 5 spots. What I love about the Raiders is the second half of this game, they were dominant. Derek Carr started off sloppy. Receivers were non-existent. They could not get separation. That completely flipped in the second half. Great adjustments by the coaching staff. I thought the coaching staff did a phenomenal job. People were kind of ripping Gruden for certain play calls, decisions to do this, that. I'm not that. There usually isn't a game plan in week 1, and that's why week 1 is weird. They had the perfect game plan on both sides of the ball for the Baltimore Ravens here in week 1. They had a game plan. It was perfect. I think why that game was closer than it needed to be for the Raiders. They started sloppy, but yeah, players weren't really executing. It was more of the players not executing. And that's the same story as last year. I thought the coaching staff put them in the position. They couldn't really execute specifically in the red zone. And that's the negative here. It did show up again. So is that a common thing for the Raiders? We're going to continue to see that, because they're going to lose games where, the close games like this where they can't execute like they did, but they clutched up in the end. So there's some positives and negatives here. They beat a pretty good team in the Baltimore Ravens. I credit the game plan there and guys going out and executing in the right time. They got to do it the whole game, though. Credit to Josh Jacobs. That guy was hurting and just, playing extremely hard. You got to respect the hell out of that. Pass rush. Raiders got a pass rush against a pretty good, we thought was a good offensive line. That's fantastic. Max Crosby, Carl Nassib were monsters out there. Ngakoue he got hurt too. Don't forget that. So hope for the Raiders moving up 5 spots. Need to see them execute more and keep winning to move up even more, but 5 spots pretty good. 16, the Titans, just like the Ravens, whopping 10 spots. Yeah, the difference in the two, Titans got their ass beat. The Ravens didn't. But Titans kind of had problems that were just week 1 problems. I think they'll get out of the funk. Ravens had more problems where you kind of question whether somebody had more problems. So it's kind of back and forth there. But you can't really compare 2 teams to power rankings. It's all about everybody. But they're going to move on 10 spots for looking sloppy, unprepared, and just getting plain out beat by the Cardinals. So they're on 10 spots. They were pretty disappointing in week 1. 15 is going to be the Patriots, down 5 spots. I kind of want to compare to the next team who they actually played, the Dolphins at 14. So we'll show those. One down 5, one up 5. When looking at these 2 teams, there's part of me that still wants to say the Patriots in my mind, the Patriots still are a better team. So does that help me? And that's a thought. No, I'm not saying that's fact or my actual final thought. Well, it's not because the Dolphins are ahead of them. It's a thought. And should that make me have the Patriots over the Dolphins? At the end of the day, I thought the Dolphins went out there and just outplayed them, and the Patriots could have won the game. But the Dolphins played some incredible defense and clutched up at the right moments. And head-to-head matchups do matter right now. They're not everything. There's only one game, so they definitely do matter. It's not everything, though. But I think there was enough there to help me have the Dolphins ahead of the Patriots here. But I always see in my power rankings, people will comment week 3, week 6, week 8, week whatever it is. How is this team ahead of that team when the team lower beat them head-to-head? It's not, especially when we get down the line, it means very, very, very little, because there could be a three-way tie as an example. There could be, this team beat that team but lost to this team, and it's just, you can't compare 2 teams. It's all, 32 teams, how they're currently playing, are they winning currently? So that's something to keep in mind going forward. The Dolphins, end of the day, they go into New England too. That played a factor. Play some real good defense and get the W there as they should, or as they deserved, I should say. So they'll be at 14. So we see the 5 up, 5 down with those 2 teams there. Patriots, I'm not really too worried about. It's a game they probably should win, but I'm not too worried about them. 13, the Cowboys. I didn't move the Cowboys at all. Love their offense when it's healthy. They'll miss Leo Collins. That's pretty tough. Well, and they miss Zach Martin as well, but for the most part, Dak, those receivers, they didn't have much of a running game, and the offense still looked great. Defense, I think will continue to improve. They had a rough go, but I still like this team. It's an explosive team. They played a tough team in Tampa Bay, so I didn't really find a reason to move them down, or did I feel like, yes, this team must move ahead of the Cowboys? I didn't get that feeling, so I kept the Cowboys at 13. 12, the Chargers move up 2 spots. Chargers have potential. I talked about this in the recap. The Chargers have potential to be great, to be scary good. They got to put it together, though. They got to finish. They got to execute. Too many drop balls. The fumble in the back of the end zone, questionable. If it was a fumble, it still happened. But yeah, questionable drops, from the receivers there. So they could have won, by a lot more. And overall, how I look at that game between them and Washington football team, the Chargers outplayed them, and they deserved to win the game. But at the same time, with the sloppiness they had, and then Washington had an uncharacteristic fumble from Gibson and a Ryan Fitzpatrick injury, the Chargers fortunate to win that game. You could say that, even though they deserved to win that game, and they in my mind, they outplayed Washington. So they move up. They have potential to be scary. Show me it. Keep winning. Keep winning and show me it. You'll continue to move up. They still move up 2 spots in a tough area, top 12. So overall, I like what I see from the Chargers. Got to finish, got to execute. 11, the Packers moved down 6 spots. They got beat up big by the New Orleans Saints. The game plan, just complete difference. Outcoached, outplayed both sides of the ball. Aaron Rodgers didn't look like Aaron Rodgers. It's another example of, at the end of the year, am I predicting the Packers to be 11? Hell no. I'm predicting them to be way better than 11, but that's not what this video is. I got to keep mentioning that. They're coming off a tough loss. I still think the Packers are a very good team. It's tough to say that after that 38-3 beatdown, but I still think the Packers are a good team, so they aren't going to plummet. 6 spots, a pretty big movement, though, and they're kind of deserving of that after that beat up there in Jacksonville against New Orleans. 10, Bills also going to move down 6 spots. A little different. They moved down the same amount of spots. The Packers, a little different outcome of their game, so you can't really compare the two, though. It's just who was moving ahead. The Bills I'm not really too worried about, for the regular season. They do got to fix some things to get over the hump against good teams like the Steelers, if they see them in the playoffs, or other teams, like that. If they see in the playoffs, they got to choose to run the ball more, and they got, Josh Allen's got to play better. Something else is growing on me too. The Steelers really didn't play their game. They didn't really play their defense. They usually blitz a lot more. They just kind of straight up pressured Josh Allen. He played a pretty poor game, so that's maybe a little concerning, but they'll be fine in the regular season. At the end of the day, just like the Packers, end of the year, I'm predicting they will be much better than the 10th best team, but again, week by week power rankings here, this is where they belong after the week 1, so see if they can turn it around. Tough game against number 14, the Dolphins, this week. That should be interesting. So they're down 6 spots to number 10. Number 9 is the Steelers. They move up 7 spots. Defense was phenomenal. They usually blitz a little more than they did, and they still dominated maybe one of the best offenses in football. So I love that defense. They had a clutch play on special teams as well. Offense, if the offense went out there and played a little better for the whole game, I would have a hard time not moving them up about 10 spots maybe, give or take. So what you do on the field definitely does matter. They clutched up in the right moments, though. I think they'll get Najee Harris going. Wasn't thrilled with that performance. I think they'll get him going for sure moving forward. But again, the offense did clutch up when they needed to, but they did rely on their defense and the special teams play. But they went out and beat the Bills at the end of the day. 7 spots is massive amount of movement, tied with the Eagles so far for the most on the rise. Most movements were, Ravens and Titans down 10 spots. Number 8, going to be the Arizona Cardinals. So now we have the most movement and the most up. The Cardinals, 12 spots. We won't really see big-time movement like this once we get into, week 4 area. But we see it early on. A dominant win over what we think, wasn't a good team in week 1, but what we think will be a very good team, the Tennessee Titans, we think. But it means something that you beat, what I label as a pretty good team, and you go out there and dominate them. The Cardinals came out and stopped the run and then forced the Titans in an uncomfortable position, what you absolutely have to do. Then they got pass rush when needed, and they played some good offense. Kyler Murray played outstanding. The receivers played great. So, overall, that's just a big-time win there for them. And they're up to number 8, up 12 spots. You always wonder with some of these teams, week one, going into week two, will week one tell us something? They go play the Vikings this week or sitting down at 24. Now, if the Cardinals go and lose that game, they might find themselves back where they started in that area. So you got to go out there and continue. Because the question with the Cardinals always been, we knew they had the talent. We knew that. We knew they're a tough team to play early on. What have I been saying? The question is, I think the fans realize it as well. Consistency is the question for the Cardinals. We saw it last year. We see it with the play, but the play calling as well. So go out there, win, and you'll actually stay in this kind of elite area here. So looking forward to see if the Cardinals can stay consistent. 7, the Browns. I didn't move the Browns at all. You almost think they deserve to get penalized a little bit because they kind of blew that game away and they had some uncharacteristic, you could say, mistakes. You almost, could say, yeah, they just should move down from that. But they played a pretty good game most of the game, 3 quarters or so of the game. They played a tough Chiefs team. They showed they can play both sides of the ball. I know the defense were kind of letting them down a little bit and some turnovers on offense down the stretch. But, I'm pretty confident with that one that it's a pretty good team still. Obviously they can hang with the big boys. So it's a game they probably should have won. So that's kind of the negative there because you didn't. But I didn't really see a reason to move them down. So I kept them at 7, I should say. 6, the 49ers move up 3 spots. 49ers offense could be dangerous. Could be very, very dangerous. You do worry about the turnover potential and the injury concern, but it could be dangerous in putting up a lot of points. At the end of the day, I don't think the Lions defense is very good. It could be the worst in football, one of the worst. But they put up big points. What I didn't like here is their defense, and not really in the comeback either. They were actually giving up some chunk plays, some yards throughout this game against the Lions. Maybe it's just a week 1 thing. Very well could be. So we'll see. It's just kind of a question at this point. How will it be? But, they did play the Lions. Some of these other teams had bigger wins, more statement wins. But they still love this offense. They got already some injuries, though. They got to stay healthy. Defense will be better than I think it was in week 1. So they're still up 3 spots to number 6 because it's a very good football team here. Number 5 is going to be New Orleans Saints, up a whopping 7 spots. You really see a whole, I guess early on you do, but a whole lot of big movement, big numbers like that in the top 5. The Saints pull it off 7 spots to number 5. They dominated the Packers. That's plain simple. People will wonder, is that a week 1 weird thing? I mean, I think it could be in terms of the score, but the Saints went out there and just outplayed them, so they definitely deserved to win the game, and it means something for sure. Well coached, well played. Jameis Winston in company there. Defensively, very tight in coverage, getting pressure. So that's big time for the Saints. Tough news is they got a COVID situation with their coaching staff, and obviously that doesn't play a part of the power rankings after just week 1. And they have some injuries that are unfortunate. So bad timing on that. Let's see if they can continue to roll. It's only been 1 game, but I consider that rolling there, what they just did. So they're at number 5, up 7 spots. Also, obviously, a big 7 seems to be a common number this week here, 2 in a row. Eagles also moved up 7 spots. Steelers also moved up 7 spots. Seahawks, love the way the Seahawks played. Colts are, somewhat of a tough team. Seahawks controlled that game pretty much the whole game. It felt like they won bigger than what the score showed, and they won by a pretty decent amount. Offense looked good. They knew how to take advantage and understand what the defense was giving to them, what they were giving them. In defense, you kind of worry about the Seahawks defense. They played very well. They got pressure from a collection of different guys. They were definitely better than expected. Getting pressure against the Colts offensive line, I know Costanzo retired. It's a big piece, and they had Eric Fisher, but he was out, so I know that was the case. But the Seahawks, you worry about the pressure. The Colts, you don't really worry about the offensive line. Seahawks got pressure against that offensive line at the end of the day. So a collection of things, really add up here, and I really liked what I saw. It was only week 1, and we saw that Seahawks, they looked great early last year, not so much, late last year. But overall, I liked what I saw there from the Seahawks. They're up to number 4. 3 stays the same with the Rams. Defense didn't play so hot. They only gave up 14 points, but they're giving up yards there. I think they just got to get physical. I'm not really worried about it. Just tighten up a little bit against that style of offense. Offense, as you see the explosive plays, you'd love to see it. And then number 2 is going to be the Chiefs. Good comeback win against the Browns. Defense didn't look so good. They did clutch up in good moments. They could play better than that. There was some sloppiness, but they got out with a win against a tough team. And the Buccaneers are going to stay out 1. Buccaneers had some sloppy moments as well, but the Cowboys were playing out of their mind Offensively, the Buccaneers continue to clutch up on offense and show why they could be the best offense in football, debatably, there. So no reason to drop the Buccaneers, defending Super Bowl champions, there at all. And yeah, the top three, there's really no reason to change that at all as well. So those are my power rankings. Again, they're not end of the year predictions. They're not playoff seedings. Sometimes people think that, they're in that category. I know other people probably do that. They kind of keep their contenders at the top no matter if they lose or what. So I do it differently here. A lot of movement early, always early in the year, then it kind of takes shape. So week 2, we'll say a lot about teams. Week 1 is just get out of there with a win. So I'm really excited to see what teams are all about here moving forward down the stretch. We got weekly picks coming up, tonight, which is, if you could be listening at a different day, but it's Tuesday night every week for weekly pick'em, score predictions every Wednesday, and a lot more content. This video every Tuesday afternoon. A lot of action, NFL action on our Twitter, so make sure you check it out. Download the BetQL app. Appreciate them for sponsoring us here. And they have a special offer for BetMGM. There's all kinds of links in the description, along with more info down there. So check it out. It is very useful and a very cool app and website. But that'll do it for this one. This week's power rankings heading into week 2. Cannot wait for other videos for this week. So please like, subscribe, turn notifications on if you want to join us for those. Be much, much appreciated. Also appreciate you guys for your support and for watching this video. It's going to do it. Goodbye.